Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 692. My opponent started off here with e4. I went e5. And after a couple of moves, knight f3, knight c6, we get bishop to b5, the Ruy Lopez. And I was pretty glad to see this. Actually, I haven't had a Ruy Lopez in a while, so always interesting to play. Let's see, I kick the bishop, and he doesn't go for the exchange variation, the second choice here, but stays with the main line. I go knight f6. Also the main line of the closed Ruy Lopez. And that would continue with bishop e7, and that would lead to lots of lines where that have been played many times. And the Chigorin variation, the Breyer variation, those kinds of lines, they all start with bishop e7, the main lines of the closed Ruy Lopez. But I play a slightly offbeat line. In my Chess Basics series, I called this the modern variation, but I think more properly it's called the modern Archangelsk, because it's similar to the Archangelsk variation. You kick the bishop back, and then you play bishop c5. By the way, the Archangelsk is to play bishop b7 at this point, and it's an interesting and tactical line. But bishop c5. The thing about the Archangelsk is it looks at first like it's losing a pawn, but in fact it isn't. So anyway, bishop c5 is the move here, and now white usually responds with either a4, going after these pawns over here on the queen side, or with c3, preparing to build up in the center. But it is possible to play the knight fork trick here. This is a playable move for white, and it leads also to interesting play. So you take back, plays d4, and the key point in this line to remember is that you take with the bishop to get the pawn back, and then you play d6, and this defends the knight which was hanging, and also threatens the I think this is called the Noah's Ark trap, meaning the oldest trap in the book. You're threatening to play c4 and then c5 and trap this bishop, and the move c4 comes with tempo, kicking the queen. So white has to react in some way. c3 is a very common reaction, but f4 has also been tried against me in an over-the-board game, and that leads to interesting play as well. a4, this was a new idea, to me at least, although I can see it's been played in the opening book, because it does give an outlet for the bishop. The bishop can drop back to a2, so I'm not actually winning a piece here. I kick the queen, queen drops back, and then I played rook to b8. And you can see we're in a very rare line in the opening book. But it turns out, I mean, what I was worried about is he's just going to take this pawn, and taking advantage of the pin on my rook, I won't be able to take back. So it seems like he's just winning a pawn here. But the main line is to go ahead and castle. And here's the point: if he takes, you throw in this move c4. You push this pawn forward anyway, supported by the knight. It doesn't need the pawn on b5 to support it. It kicks the bishop back, and then you can take the pawn. And yeah, this turns out to be good for black. So that is the trick that I missed, and it's a useful trick to know. So I'm going to try and remember that one. So in this case, I was just improvising at this point. I played rook to b8, which is okay. This leads to about an even position. I think black is actually a little better in the other line. He goes bishop d5. I castle. He goes knight to d2. Oh, pretty logical development. Then I play bishop to e6. This is not a bad move, but it's kind of rushing things a little bit. I don't really have to worry so much about getting rid of this bishop here. And the chess engine line is pretty logical. It says just play rook to e8. Put the rook in the center opposite the queen, and if he continues developing, which is pretty normal, you can actually take the bishop off at this point. And now you can play knight to c4 with a tempo, and also his knight is gone from this square, so it's not challenging the knight on c4 anymore. And let's see, queen f4, and it looks like this is a decent position for black. So the chess engine actually thinks black is a little better here. Maybe this knight can route around and put some pressure on the d pawn. Anyway, that's best way to play here. I went bishop e6. Like I said, it's not terrible move, but it's not best. Let's see, and he should just take. And when I take back, we get this kind of position, which is about even as the chess engine rates it, and I believe it. He's got to move this knight out of the way to develop his bishop. And when he moves the knight, I'll get this square. Actually, the chess engine recommends playing b3 here to take that square away from me. But that's kind of a slow plan. So somehow black has some kind of edge in development, and the material's pretty even. The fact that there's a bishop versus a knight probably does not yet matter. May become a factor in the endgame, but it's not a big deal at this point. So that would be an even position and interesting to play. Instead, he played f4, which is an idea from earlier in this position. f4 is always something that's you have to think about as black when you're playing this. He's going to get this move f4 in, and it's a little bit inconvenient right here. Although I have a good reply, I just didn't quite figure it out during the game. I wanted to play knight e to g4, and the chess engine afterwards said that, yes, that is the best move, and I should have just played it. But, well, it's not so easy to see in a blitz game. What I was worried about, I mean, I saw that I got the knight here with tempo. Say he moves the queen. What I was worried about is that he's going to play h3 at some point, kick the knight back, and the knight goes here. And it has no squares at that point. But, you know, his pawns are covering these squares, and my pieces are covering these squares. So that how was that knight ever going to get back into the game? So that was my reasoning and why I rejected this move. But, well, one flaw in that reasoning is that I gave white 2 moves in a row. I gave him the move with the queen, and then I gave him h3. And, of course, black gets a move here. And so there's ways that black can, with this move, prepare other squares for this knight to go to. And that's how this turns out to be good for black. So, for example, take the bishop off first. This knight still has nowhere to go, but now you play c4. And now if he tries kicking the knight, you can throw in this check. And the king goes somewhere, and then the knight has the square e3, a very fine square to go to. So that's one way to prepare a square for the knight. Another way to do it is after taking the bishop, just play rook e8. Simply giving this square for the knight. Let's see, if white plays knight to b3 to cover that square so the knight goes back, then this knight can go back to h6 voluntarily and threaten to come into f5. In fact, if h3 is played here, then knight f5, and black's in great shape. And if white pushes his pawn forward to try and prevent the knight from coming to f5, then the knight just goes back to g4, somewhat paradoxically, and if it gets kicked, it now has this square e5 to go to. So the answer is that knight, I meant to go backwards, back. Yeah, white just played f4 in this position, and the move that I want to play, knight e to g5, is in fact playable. And you just have to calculate a few moves ahead to make sure that that knight has a way out of that position, and it won't get sidelined for the rest of the game. And, you know, in a slow game, I might have time to calculate that kind of thing all the way out, or sufficiently out to have the confidence to play it. It's a little tough to play in a blitz game, I have to say. And so I was looking at this situation here, trying to figure out how to get out of it. And I saw that if I took with the knight, he takes back with the pawn, and then I have 2 pieces hanging. The pawn is attacking my bishop, and this pawn is attacking my knight. So that loses material. So I took with the bishop, and then instead of taking back, if he took back with the pawn, which is what I was expecting, if he took back the bishop, that's what I was expecting, then I have time to move my knight. But he surprised me by playing the best move, which is he took the other piece. When there's 2 pieces hanging, he has a choice of which piece to take. And when he takes this way, now, once again, I'm in the situation where I have 2 pieces hanging. So it's tough to avoid the loss of material. Let's see, I played knight g4 now, hitting his queen, and planning to round up a pawn. Now this knight from g4 has squares to go to, so I'm not worried about it being trapped there. Plus, I'm losing material anyway, so I have to do something. Played queen g3, and now I played my second mistake, and this one was a real blunder. I guess I was rattled by the course of events, and I gave up a piece here, but actually I didn't have to. I had time, since I kicked the queen, I had time to move the bishop away from the pawn, and I'm supporting my knight. Now, white is still winning. White does win some material here, and so white's a pawn up, but he's not a piece up. And I mean, it is an important central pawn, so white's probably got a winning position here, but the game would go on. There would be chances. After bishop takes e4, which was just played too quickly, then I stay down a piece. He takes the bishop. I take the pawn. I mean, I end up down a piece. And I'm not getting that piece back. Let's see. He went bishop f4. There was also the idea he could have played knight f6 check here, which is kind of interesting, forcing my king over, and he can generate some more threats from that point. Anyway, that would be one way to play. Bishop f4 is fine too, though. White is basically winning in most lines here. I go rook e8. He went bishop g5 now, hitting my queen, and I played f6, thinking that was safe. But he just took it with the knight. This is a very good move. It forks my king and my rook, and if I take the knight back, then he takes here with check and wins my queen, so I can't take the knight. So very, very well spotted. He was taking his time and figuring out the tactics in this position, which is the right way to play it. Somewhat annoying for me, but he's playing good moves here. Let's see, I went king h8, and he went just queen to h3. And really, there's no good way to stop the various threats of mate. In fact, the chess engine says the only way to stop the mate is to play queen takes f6, give up the queen for a knight, and that's pretty sad. So anyway, I resigned at this point, but it was a good game by white, and also an interesting opening. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.